Hello, everyone. This is B-Belt Dan, and we are constructing the Enterprise J in Blender. Kind of picking up right where we left off, where we normally do on most of these episodes. It's kind of the same old, same old. I've done a little bit of work right off the screen, trying to do most of the little, how should I say, medial tasks, for off screen. Because, you can only teach them so many times within the same series before they start to become redundant. And, trying to save some of the bigger stuff, for on screen, especially for those of y'all that are using this for tutorial purposes. And, I also want to just go ahead and kind of say first is that I thank for those of y'all that are, leaving any kind of comments or anything. It really kind of helps me, you know, uh, kind of go figure out what I want to do and how I want to take this and everything. In fact, one of the comments that somebody mentioned is kind of what this particular episode for today is going to be kind of circling, surrounding about, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. Just what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to clean up clean up the mesh to try to, because upon modeling it, I mean, I modeled this originally in two separate pieces, the top portion and the bottom portion, combined it to the and towards the back portion, but in this middle section here, it looked kind of blah. That's the actual term, technical term to use, I guess, when you're doing 3D modeling and you don't like something, just blah. So trying to clean it up a little bit. I'm still not 100% happy with the way that it's looking, but for the most part, most of this is going to be hidden away by the saucer. So it's unless somebody takes this and removes, like puts a saucer separation and remove it, they probably won't see it. So, and been kind of contemplating about maybe working on it a little bit more to try to make it look more quote unquote professional, but ultimately I decided against it for two reasons. One, as I mentioned in the last episode, is that I'm planning on eventually cutting this particular series short. And what we're going to be doing instead is kind of calling this version 1, or actually it'd be more of version 2, because I've already done a version before this. And that one, for the most part, except for some minor textures, I was pretty much completed. So it would actually be version 2, but that will give me the chance to go back and, starting off with a brand new version, it kind of gives me a chance to where I can come up with a closure, some closure on this particular mesh and this particular model. And I can take a look at it and kind of use it as, kind of a rough draft to go through and say, well, I like this, but I hate this part. How can I model this differently without having to restart the whole mesh over again? Because that's becoming a little bit tiring. Because it's getting to the point to where I feel like that's what I'm going to have to eventually do is just restart the mesh all over again. But if I'm going to do that, I might as well do the whole kit and caboodle. But I'm going to finish this and I'm going to kind of release it so other people can look at it, or use it or what have you. But I've somewhere down the line, I'm going to revisit this for a third time, hence why it'll be called version 3. But that version I'm hoping will be far, far better, superior to. I'm hoping that version 3 will be superior to version 2 as much as version 2 is actually superior to version 1. If you look back in some of my earlier episodes, you might see me doing some work on version 1, and you'll even probably see some pictures of version 1. And if you go on some of the sci-fi mesh websites, like Sci-Fi Meshes, for example, is one. Blender Artist, I believe, is another one. You might actually even be able to see some of those pictures of the original, version 1, version 2s, and stuff like that, which, I've long since abandoned for more superior models. So, that's what we're looking at. But we're still pressing along on this, and just to kind of give you a little bit of a roadmap of what we're planning on doing for the next several episodes. So if you want to try to plan ahead, is well, let's get started with what we're going to be doing for this episode. Is I mentioned about the deflector dish, about how originally it was a circular deflector dish, more traditional deflector dish, but I decided to try something a little bit different, which was going to be this. If y'all remember the Dauntless, the non-Federation slash Federation ship Dauntless that I mentioned in a couple of episodes ago, is I tried. It kind of had a very unique, interesting deflector dish. Now, it ended up being the Dauntless, spoilers, wasn't an actual Federation ship. It was an alien ship disguised as a Federation ship. So that deflector shield was more of, the alien design. But however, the Dauntless type ship showed up in the same, you know, basically in the same era as the Enterprise J. So originally I was thinking that, okay, well, if they have those type of ships with that type of deflector shield all around by the time of the Enterprise J, then maybe they've actually copied that design, and new warp technologies require new deflector dishes, deflector screens, and new technology. So they borrowed from some of the information that they got from Voyager. So I looked at that, but then looking at it, it doesn't scream. Uh, this is such an already kind of a unique design to begin with, that that this dish right here might not make it to where it is easily recognizable as a Federation ship. So I was planning on getting rid of it and going back to an alternative method for a circular, more traditional style deflector dish, and or maybe even get rid of the deflector dish at all. The only reason about why I want two deflector dishes, because I figure that, especially with this ship, about how it can operate away from a star base for potentially years at a time, they want redundancy. And just like how you see the Nova class and the Intrepid class ships, they do have dual deflector dishes. One large one that's primarily, usually that tends to be on the primary hull, and one secondary, which is usually on the saucer section. And I see the same thing, but for the Enterprise J, I saw it to where it'd be the opposite. This is the primary, and then they had a much smaller one down here for the secondary. But some people have mentioned to me that they would actually like to see this particular style on there. So what I decided to do is I am going to model both. And what I did on that is I went into edit mode and I selected a good section of this. What I did, I can show y'all. Let me go back out. Is these are two separate pieces, so they're two complete separate meshes. But for the most part, even if I go into rendered mode, you really can't see the seams there, because those faces, vertices, and everything are, yeah, this is more of that cleanup that I'm talking about, because that's not rendering right. But the vertices, the faces, I mean, they're overlapping. So as far as rendering is concerned, there is no seam there. I mean, it's absolutely, I mean, well, I said not say absolutely seamless. I don't think it's absolutely, because you see some differences right along here, right along there. They're very faint, but they're there. But you can still see them. But they're pretty close. So what I did is I went ahead and I went into edit mode, pretend this was all combined, and I selected a single vertice, and I just kept pressing Control plus 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 to select more vertices until I got into an area to where I thought it's enough of the vertices to where I could model with it, but not so much, not too little to where I start distorting these vertices along the edges, because I want to keep those the same. So when I recombine it back to this main mesh here, it's easier for me to, all I should have to do is just, join them together and do a, you know, con, control V, remove doubles, and they'll recombine. but I didn't want to select too big of a piece to where it was too much of the hull that was taken away. So I thought that was pretty good. And then I just did, a control, I'm sorry, not control P. What I did was, is I selected, and I'm going to do it right here, is I selected several selected several vertices, several faces. Let's say I like to do that, and all I do is I press P. No control, no anything. I don't know why I had brain fart there, but I do control P, and I do a separate by selection. And what that does is that creates a completely separate mesh, separate from this, and it inherits all the inherits the modifiers. Anything that's tied to the base mesh, it inherits as well. Let's go back into edit mode and redo that. There we go. And I don't think that. Oh, Ooh, wait, I did not know it can do that. It's almost like a way of duplicating, but we don't need that, so I'm going to delete that one. All right, so that's what I did is I went ahead and I separated. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a control D to duplicate it. And I'm going to move that to a different layer. So we should have it in this layer right here. So I can model this and then I can swap it out. In fact, I need to go ahead and move this one to a different layer. So let's move that one to that layer right there. Just select it, press M and move to layer. And there we go. So I can go ahead and model this one differently from this one here. Don't think you really, yeah, you can't really see much of a difference between the two. Then I can go back, bring this back in, and select on either that one or that one, and kind of get a look at it from distances, from different angles and different renders to see which way I ultimately really like. This saves me time, so I don't have to completely redo, or not redo, but completely duplicate this entire mesh because I've already done that a few times, and like right here, I've already went ahead and duplicated that. I need to really kind of delete that to start kind of cleaning it out. I got some extra mesh pieces right there. I don't need any more. I don't think that's bad. I think I cleared out everything else. So let's go ahead and, okay, that's that. Let's go ahead and bring everything back into focus here. So yeah, I'm going to be working on that. And what we're going to do is I'm going to be doing that off screen. No sense in once again boring y'all with all that because it's just basically going to be just me modeling it into a more traditional style deflector dish, putting that back in. But as far as the rest of the model is concerned, I haven't really done a whole lot because also, as I mentioned in the last episode, I mean, I'm going to be texturing in a lot of the windows, so I don't really need to be modeling that in. And there's going to be some extra little hull plate details that some I'm going to be putting in like those fine lines along here. I'm going to be putting some, what is it? Defense screens or, what are they called? Oh, darn it. Uh, Great oogly moogly. Well, I put them on this one. I don't know if you could probably see it, but if I put it on this one to where, you know, they're hull panels, but they're recessed. So they're part. I know they're supposed to be part of like the deflector screen or something like that. Not the deflector shield, but the deflector screens or something. So yeah, there's some that I'm going to be putting onto this portion of the hull here. Little stuff like that, but not really a whole lot. A lot of the details I'm going to be texturing. With that being said, starting on the next episode, I'm actually going to go ahead and start texturing this. And first thing we're gonna be working on is going to be what I like to usually call the glowy bits, which are all the parts that's going to have minus windows that emit light. And so we got this impulse engine here, we got these lights here, we got the deflector dishes. So I'm going to definitely try to make a decision on what deflector dish I want to use, hopefully by the time of that next episode. We got the Buzzard collectors, Buzzard, whatever. I've heard both ways, Buzzard. We got this little area here, which is the warp impulse crystal, or well, it looks like it's a warp impulse crystal. It might not be the same. Actually, it probably could be the warp impulse crystal for this. And you got these chiller grills right here, which we're going to be select, there we go. So all those are little glowy bits. Oh yeah, and this little area right here are glowy bits. So we're going to be texturing those. Right now I do have them to where they are of an emittance level, which gives it some light. If we, let's go ahead and turn off all that. It does give it some light, ability to light. But there's one feature though, which we're going to start using this cycles render here. It's something I've been toying around with recently over the Blender cycle because it tends to make this ship look I mean, it lights everything a lot better. It actually uses this emittance material to not only, show light, but also cast light out and bounce off to objects. So it best I can tell, it also even does it with Windows. So we're definitely going to be trying with that. So in the next episode, that's what we're going to start doing is looking at texturing the whole ship. And not saying that I'm done modeling it. It's just once again, most of the modeling I'm going to be doing off screen. So what I'm going to go ahead and do right now is I'm going to cut off screen and I'm going to work on this piece. When we cut back in, we'll take a look at both of those pieces, kind of weigh them out, see what we want to do. And then from there, we'll talk about the next episode. So give me a few minutes. Actually, for me, it'll probably be a few hours, but for y'all, it'll only be about a few seconds, maybe not even that. And with the magic of editing, I'll see you here quickly. And we're back. Like I said, it was probably just only a few seconds for you. It was actually, well, not quite several hours for me. It didn't really take me as long as I thought it would to go ahead and try to come up with this, uh, with this alternative here. But there it is, and I'm I'm actually kind of liking that. So I'm probably going to go ahead and go with this. But y'all tell me what y'all probably think. Let's take a look at those. So we got. Um, this is the original deflector dish, which was kind of modeled after the, uh, oh, darn it, what was that? I just said it just a little bit ago. The Dauntless class vessel. And here we got the more typical standard deflector dish. I kind of like that. I think it's a little bit more scaled to um, for a redundant deflector dish, and I think it fits very well as far as the shape is concerned to the rest of the body. If we look at it from head on here, so I kind of like that. But y'all let me know what y'all would probably think. I'm gonna kind of let y'all you know kind of come up with or help me kind of make a decision on which ones. I mean, I can really go either way. Either one of those would probably work, and I can definitely try to work on this particular one here to try to make it look a little bit more, um, you know, well, first off, fix a lot of these edges here and stuff to make it look a lot nicer, but at the same time also make it look a little bit more Federation like. And there's a lot of stuff that I can also do with textures to make it look a lot better. So, and we're going to look at that into the next episode. Because we're going to be working on the textures here, and just like I was saying, we're going to be working on the glowy bits is what I like, what I called it, such as the, once again, well, I've already mentioned it just a few minutes ago, so no sense to going back over that again. So as far as tutorial purposes are concerned, it's going to be kind of in the next episode what to expect. It's going to be a bit more on how to do, mark seams and unwrap the ship. We're not going to do the whole ship on that, just these little areas here. And I don't know exactly what I want to do, if I want to go ahead and probably go into the Photoshop program that I'm using and show you how to build the textures because, you know, excuse me, building the textures, maybe I can go into the Photoshop and show y'all, oh, excuse me, how I do that part. So we can look into that and then I'll show you how to apply that. But we're also going to go ahead and look at the differences between Blender render and the cycles render. I mean, each one of them has, their own advantages and disadvantages of each. Cycles renders does have, I think, the better. I mean, it does have a better results, more realistic results, especially. But you need to start getting into things called nodes and stuff for your textures and things. Blender render tends to be a lot simpler, but it's a lot faster render. So that's kind of what I've noticed. So we'll look into that into the next episode. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the episode here. I think you know, actually, I think this episode is probably going to be close to about 20 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but I think that'd be kind of a nice little place to go ahead and kind of stop it for. But, um, because most of the stuff once again, I'm just going to just kind of do off screen. I mean, let's look into here. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and try to use some of these edges here, cut you know, uh, some panels into the sides here, and work a little bit more on this back portion here, which is where the shuttle bay's at. But as far as that, most of the other stuff, details on here are going to be just pretty much just strictly textures and things. A couple little greebles that I'm going to be putting on, such as greebles along here on the bottom that is visible from screens and stuff. And I'm still got some ideas of what I'm going to do on top of this saucer section. And this saucer section is going to be the actual first part of the ship that I'm going to be, um, texturing. I'm going to try to texture that entire thing. So looking forward to that into maybe not the next episode, but the episode after that. So we can at least get a good look on how the texturing looked, get all the windows down, and so on and so forth. So I'm also going to be trying to look at interior textures because some of these windows, if we look at it as, is it this one? I think it is because it's taking its sweet time. Yeah. Some of these windows, if you look at it, ooh, I'm a little bit off on some of that, but oh well. Some of these windows look like they are pretty huge. So if they are that big, on a, you know, 2 mile wide ship, you should be able to go see some good details into there. So, um, so I'm going to be looking into that. Also, another thing I would like to kind of get y'all's opinion on is what type of windows should this be? I mean, I know at the bottom section, the windows, the way they're designed is that, I mean, they're, I think, enough of a slope to where you kind of get that vibe that you see on the Enterprise D, to where, you could see, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Actually, you know what? Let me do this. Um, let's go ahead and go into, rather than trying to explain it, let me show you. So let's go into view front. We do shift A. Let's go ahead and add in oh, nope, not that. Shift A. Now this was something I wasn't expecting, but um, let's go into wireframe mode. So let's say like here's a room. This is a room inside the ship. Your standard old room. Whoops. The way I kind of see that those windows are at the bottom portion is that you have the room, and then just imagine, if you will, the window is kind of shaped like that. So they might, the interior of the room. I mean, if you paid attention to the episode, you might have like the, to kind of use this space as much as possible where the window's at. There's a, you know, um, they'll put in a bed, that will butt up against this. So we have like a, oh, come on. And I know there's probably better ways for me to demonstrate this, but let's say like this here is the bed right here, and it went up, flush up against that, so when you're laying on the bed, whoops. So like when you're laying on the bed, like right along here, you're laying on the bed, you don't really see that there's not a lot of space here underneath here because it's in space that's not used. So, you have the full person there and there's a window right there so they can still see out, but when you zoom out of that, that angle there translates, you know, from a distance, ew, you know what I'm saying is like this angle right here on the window can translate, when you're zoomed out at a distance at a much steeper angle that might fit on the bottom portion of that saucer section. But for the top portion of the saucer section, let's go back over to here for this top portion though. I'm almost kind of thinking along the lines of that is not this type of window here, but instead that's more of a skylight, to where instead vision, if you will, and I used to have some pictures of it, and I might try to see if I can find it, of my ideas of how the interiors of the inside look, to where, if we go into, the same type of room here, you know, let's look at it from the top. Actually, this here, let's move that back. Oops. GX, move that back in. If you look at it from the top instead, you know, you have your room here, and then on the ceiling here is going to be the extrude scale. Right there's the windows. So you have this, like this little area, right? Like that little right there might be a single room window, except it'd be more like, oh, whoops, more like that. So it's kind of a long room. I mean, that looks like a window. That looks like those are off. Those are other windows. So it's more of a skylight. So you have the person in here inside the room. There's no windows here because room to room it's butt up against each other. Multiply butt up. There's another room right there, but you can have a skylight to look up and to see rather than as opposed to, traditional windows. But that's only within this particular section of it. I think I have enough of an angle right here to where we could probably use the more traditional windows that we've seen in the episodes. So give me y'all's opinion on that as well, about what y'all would probably think. So yeah, like right along in here, it looks like that might be steep enough that where we can kind of get those other windows in this area right here. This is another thing that I'm thinking about. It's all white here, but I don't think that should translate to being an all white area here. I'm thinking of about, wouldn't that be kind of cool if we took this area here and turned that into kind of a, um, oh, what's it called? Ar, ar, an arbitrium, or kind of like a park, or something with a big old glass dome or a big old shielded dome or something like that, to where just imagine, if you will, in the center of this is this you know, huge. It's shielded, of course, using the very thick, transparent aluminum, but it's a big shield, and you can see parks, trees, and lakes and river. Lake, or like a pound, not like lake, but a pond or something inside there. And it's in the center of the ship. That's kind of what I see that for. I mean, it's lights. It has to be for something, and that's the only purpose I could probably think of. At the bottom, of course, it's not there, but the top portion, it's of course there. So let me, give me y'all's opinion about what y'all would probably think, because that's my idea of where I would like to try to go with it, and that's probably what I'm going to do. But I just want to hear what y'all guys probably say. So yeah, let me know about, you know, what y'all think about the deflector dish, what y'all think about the windows, and what you think about this little center portion here, because you know, say I'm going to go ahead and start texturing this, and once I get done with all these little glowy bits here, I'm going to start texturing this saucer section. So I'm going to eventually have to come up with ways of what to do with this. Currently right now is, yeah, that's going to be kind of an arbitrarian, but I might not necessarily put a texture in there. I might just keep it white like that with a little bit of light emittance. But these windows here, if they're going to be the skylights, probably what I'm going to do is something along the lines of, um, you know, something similar to what I did here. Well, it's kind of a hybrid between what I did there and what I did down here, except it would be more along the lines of, oops, let's do this real quick. And I'm not going to save this, but just so y'all can see. We go like that. Boom, there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I select a whole bunch of these here, do an extrude, scale it down, and then doing another extrude, just extrude it down just a little bit to give it a little bit more depth, and then put the texture in right there. So, you know, you can see it, and let's go ahead and go into rendered. So it would look like that. So it would be a little bit extruded to kind of give a little bit more texture into the top portion of this, but it's going to be using textures to do the individual windows if I decide to do it that particular type of route, which I'm probably, I mean, I don't know. So, oops, there we go. So let me know what y'all probably think inside the comments or what have you. Send me a message or comments. I'm always reading the comments, and I appreciate those of y'all that are leaving comments and everything. It really kind of helps me out that y'all are, and it really kind of motivates me, so to say. When I see that y'all are, and I actually hear back from y'all that are watching. Even if y'all just kind of give me, hey, I like this, or even if you sit there and tell me, hey, I don't like this ship, that's fine. The comments are still muchly appreciated. So I want to really thank y'all for that. So, and just let me know what y'all think. So until the next episode, this is B Belt Dan, and this is the Enterprise J and Blender, and I will see you next time.